The first day I was brought back to the wealthy Shin family, Dad placed an organ donation agreement in front of me. We are a family of doctors. Signing this agreement proves you are truly part of this family. I glanced at Mom, who was embracing the sickly fake heiress, and immediately nodded. Okay. Everyone was stunned, seemingly not expecting me to agree so readily. I had never experienced warmth growing up. Mom personally made me soup, and I was so touched that I drank it all, even the broken glass. In the moment before I fainted, I saw Mom approaching with a scalpel. When I woke up, I endured the immense pain of losing a kidney and wiped away Mom's tears for her. Dad said he would take me for a drive and told me to wait for him. I didn't move even as he drove towards me and hit me. In the ICU, I was on my deathbed, and I faintly heard Dad say he wanted my heart. I excitedly opened my eyes. The fake heiress sneered. You don't actually think that being obedient and devoted will get you accepted into this family, do you? I laughed too. What I want to be accepted into is you. I signed the last character on the organ donation agreement. Dad quickly put away the document, the lines on his face softening. Mom gently stroked my hair. I recoiled as if electrocuted. Her gaze fell on the new and old scars on my neck. A flash of disgust flickered in her eyes, but she said with feigned concern, "Meow meow, it's Mom's fault." Dad put his arm around her shoulder and said to me in a condescending tone, "Meow meow, you are a good child. Tell us, what reward do you want? Anything we can give you, we will." I lowered my head, my shoulders trembling slightly. After a long time, I said in a voice barely above a whisper, I don't want anything. I have never felt the love of a mom and dad. I want you to love me, even just a little." The air froze, and they were both clearly surprised. Mom hugged me. "Silly child, of course we love you. You will always be our precious daughter." Dad nodded emphatically. "From today on, we are the happiest family. As long as you are good and obedient." "Ah!" Shinwan screamed in pain. The warmth on my parents' faces instantly vanished. They immediately let go of me and rushed out like two gusts of wind. The temperature around me instantly plummeted. Wan, what's wrong?" Mom's concern was much more genuine than before. Dad roared, suppressing his anger. "What happened? Why is the young lady vomiting blood?" A servant trembled and answered, I don't know. The things the young lady eats are all according to the doctor's orders." "Dad." Shenwan looked at me, hesitating to speak. Dad followed her gaze and looked at me, his eyes icy. Wan, tell me directly. Dad will stand up for you." Sister. Sister gave me a piece of peach blossom cake earlier. I was just about to say I didn't when a slap landed hard on my face. It stung fiercely. Mom's expression was twisted. "Shin meow. What are you up to? Don't you know Wan has heart and kidney problems and can't eat things randomly?" Cough cough. "Mom, don't blame sister. She was defending me, but her eyes showed that she was very afraid of me. Sister meant well. She didn't know I couldn't eat it." Shenwan suddenly coughed up another mouthful of blood and fainted, closing her eyes. Dad grabbed my wrist, his grip so strong that it almost crushed my bones. "You are responsible for the mistake you made. Go to the hospital and give Wan a blood transfusion. Draw 1000 cc. The nurse looked at the lab report with a troubled expression. "Dinshin, she is severely malnourished. Her hemoglobin is far below the standard. Drawing so much blood will cause problems." Dad's eyes didn't waver at all. "I am the dean. If I say draw it, draw it." The nurse looked at me, hinting that I should refuse. I stared blankly at Dad. "Dad, will you love me if I obediently donate blood?" I was pressed onto the hospital bed, and the cold needle pierced my blood vessel as warm blood was slowly drawn from my body. It's so cold, getting colder and colder. The scene in front of me gradually blurring. Am I going to die? When I opened my eyes again, the ceiling was spinning, and my throat was so dry it felt like it was burning. My parents couldn't hear my desperate pleas for water. They were all gathered around Shenwan in the next bed, who had a rosy complexion. "This is Mom's special recipe for you. Eat one more bite. Wan is so good." When Wan is discharged from the hospital, Dad will buy you a sports car, okay? The cheerful laughter was so grating. I tugged at my chapped lips and murmured, "I knew it. If someone doesn't love you, No matter how obedient or ingratiating you are, it's useless. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, I walked unsteadily on the road home, still hearing Mom's words in my ear. Your complexion is so bad. Don't get in the car, be careful of passing your illness to Wan Wan. The rain was heavy, soaking the cotton stuck in my chest, making it cold and clammy. After entering the villa through the back door, I accidentally overheard my parents' whispers. Dad's voice was cold and hard as iron. Wan Wan's kidney failure has reached the intermediate stage. It can't be delayed any longer. After that Jinx was born, our health and careers have never been good. Fortunately, we had a master's guidance and adopted Wan Wan, that lucky star, which allowed our family to develop smoothly to this day. Wan Wan absolutely cannot have an accident. We originally wanted to let Shen Miao experience being a wealthy young lady, but she doesn't cherish it. Since she dared to harm Wan Wan, send her to the servant's room and make her behave. Mom picked at me with a sharp tongue. She's so dark and thin like a monkey, it'll cost us some money to fatten her up first. By the time Wan Wan's surgery is scheduled, she'll be almost ready. Even if she finds out, so what? She signed the organ donation agreement long ago. We are her parents. We have the right to decide who gets her kidney. I touched the area behind my left waist and cracked a smile. They've reached this point so quickly. I thought it would take at least half a year. I was incredibly excited, but my nose was inexplicably sore. I was well fed and taken care of in the small servant's room for 2 months, and my complexion finally improved. When Mom pushed open the door, she had a gentle smile on her face, but her hand subconsciously fanned in front of her nose. Shen Wan was behind her, smiling maliciously. Meow meow, Mom made you a 5 red bean soup. It's good for blood. Mom was wrong that day. I was too emotional and hit you. Memories flashed in my mind. When I was 8 years old, kidnappers thought I had stolen their money. They beat me so badly that 3 sticks broke, and I almost died. Later, when they found out I didn't steal it, they turned around and scolded me for not being careful enough. That I had a worthless life. Mom grabbed my hand, her sincerity touching. Meow meow, can you forgive Mom? Was someone actually apologizing to me? Tears streamed down my face as I choked and nodded. I forgive you, Mom. I know you didn't mean it. Shen Wan happily clapped her hands on the side. That's great, sister. You've finally made up. Hurry up and drink the soup. Mom made it for you personally. Don't let Mom's good intentions go to waste. I picked up the bowl and took a sip. Something grazed my tongue, and a metallic, rusty taste exploded in my mouth. I lowered my head, and a scarlet bloom spread in the dark red soup. I instinctively wanted to spit it out. Oh sister, how can you waste it? Shen Wan held my hand, smiling innocently and maliciously. This is Mom's full of love. I looked up at Mom. Mom's eyes darted away, avoiding my gaze. She clearly saw me spitting blood too. Shen Wan leaned into her ear and said sweetly, Mom, I just want to see her finish this bowl. Mom was silent for a moment, then said, Drink it, meow meow. The tears of gratitude stopped instantly. Okay. I picked up the bowl, tilted my head back, and swallowed the soup mixed with glass shards, mouthful by mouthful. The glass sliced through my esophagus, piercing my stomach wall. Pain. A dense, overwhelming pain spread from my internal organs. I spat out a mouthful of blood, splattering it on the snow-white sheets, like blooming red plums. I smiled and asked her, Mom, I finished it all, am I good? Can you love me now? Mom was so frightened by my appearance that she took a step back, her face pale. She staggered, turned around and fled. The veins on her calf bulged suddenly and contracted rapidly. A beautiful sight. Dear Mom, if you knew that every bit of pain you inflicted on me would be repaid to you in another form, what kind of expression would you have? Shen Wan walked up to me triumphantly. Shen Miao, don't think that just because you're the real daughter, you can replace me. See, as long as I want, Mom and Dad will stand by my side without hesitation. You are nothing. I couldn't hear what she was saying. I just looked at her body eagerly, greedily. Shen Wan kicked me away, slowly lay down on the ground, and clutched her waist. Mom, Dad, I'm in so much pain. In the last second before I lost consciousness, I saw Mom holding a scalpel, walking towards me with cold eyes. When I woke up, I was missing a kidney. Shen Wan was very disappointed that I hadn't died. Mom held my hand, her tears falling fast and heavy. Meow meow, I'm so sorry. Your kidney was necrotic and had to be removed. I endured the severe pain in my abdomen, weakly raised my hand, and wiped away her tears for her. Thank you, Mom, for saving me. She turned her face away guiltily. I tilted my head, looking at her profile with confusion. Mom, on your face. Why are you growing black hair? Mom's crying stopped abruptly, and she reached out to touch it. She rushed to the mirror in the bathroom like a madwoman, screaming even louder, loud enough to be pleasing. Today is Shenwan's birthday party. It's also my birthday. The living room was filled with guests. Dad was beaming. I announced that I will give 25% of the Shen family's shares to Shenwan as a birthday gift. Shenwan was wearing a princess dress, like a proud peacock. Mom, who always loved beauty, was wearing a mask, but black marks were still visible at the edges. I was ordered to hide in a corner, like a rat afraid of the light. Shenwan accidentally dropped a piece of cake on the ground, and it was stepped on. The guests scrambled to say nice things to save the situation. She smiled graciously and looked at me. Sister probably hasn't eaten such good cake. Today is also your birthday, so this is a reward for you. A stranger aunt looked at me. Sister? Who is this? Dad looked at my ill-fitting old clothes with disgust. The nanny's child. How did she run out? Mom immediately understood and pushed me. Pick up the cake and go back to the servants' room. Don't disturb the guests. My body subconsciously obeyed, but my brain ordered me to stop. I smiled at her. Okay, Mom. My voice was loud, and Mom froze instantly. I also heard that this is the Shen family's real daughter. To make your own daughter wear this and live in the servants' room, and not even admit she's your child. What did you bring her back for? Do you deserve to be parents? I heard that she was forced to sign an organ donation agreement as soon as she came back. Did you bring her back just for her organs? If you can do that to your own daughter, then in cooperation. Dad quickly stepped in to smooth things over and put his arm around me. Meow meow, you're really something. Why aren't you wearing the dress Dad bought you? Dad just didn't recognize you. He pointed to Shenwan's room. Aunt Zhang, quickly take Miss back to her room to change. Shenwan's room was big and bright, practically a princess's castle. I stood in front of the 2-meter-wide full-length mirror. The person in the mirror had red eyes, and tears were falling one by one. I raised my hand, my fingertips gently touching her cold tear stains. Leave the rest to me. Don't cry, the more they give her now, the more we'll get in the future. The banquet ended, and I returned to the small servant's room. Listening to Dad's thunderous rage, Mom's screams about her face, and Shenwan's heart attack outside, I slept particularly sweetly. The next day, Dad said he would take me out to play as a birthday gift to make up for things. He crouched down and looked at me with a loving look I had never seen before. Meow meow, I made you suffer yesterday. His palm was big and warm, gently stroking my head. You stand here obediently, don't run around, Dad will go get the car. I nodded and said softly, okay, I'll be good. I really would be very good. So I watched the black car turn around, accelerate, and rush towards me. The blinding headlights were like the eyes of two beasts, until the hard front of the car slammed into my body, throwing me away. I didn't even flinch. I see. My whole body ached, my throat was full of blood, and the instruments beeped in my ears. Her heart indicators are stable, and she can have surgery at any time. It was Dad's voice. I immediately opened my eyes excitedly. On the operating table next to me lay the smug Shenwan. The corner of her mouth curled into a sneer. You don't actually think that being obedient and giving will let you fit into this family, do you? I smiled too, a smile that made my chest ache. The one I want to fit into is you. Shenwan looked at me like an idiot. Crazy. Dad walked in wearing surgical scrubs, gently comforting Shenwan. Wan, don't be afraid. Dad will personally perform the surgery. Nothing will happen to you. When he turned to me, his eyes instantly became fierce. Last time your mom felt sorry for you and gave you anesthesia, it almost killed Wan. I blinked, looking innocent. Dad, what are you talking about? My poor Wan is allergic to normal anesthetics. He looked away in disgust. Don't blame me. Blame the fact that you were born to be bad luck for your parents. If Wan didn't need your organs, I wouldn't have brought an ominous thing like you home. In that instant, I could clearly feel my soul trembling violently. Dad, haven't you ever loved me, even a little? I'm so good, so obedient, and you still want to kill me? Dad looked at me coldly, as if looking at an inanimate object. You were born with a cheap life, don't blame others. Born with a cheap life. So birth parents and traffickers are no different. My attachment to family gradually turned to ashes. A sentence echoed in my heart. Not everyone deserves to be a parent. Just do what you want, I won't stop you anymore. The nurse brought the expensive special anesthetic and carefully injected it into Shenwan. I looked at the empty syringe and asked softly, Dad, what about me? Dad laughed as if he had heard the biggest joke, looking down at me. Do you know how expensive that is? You think you deserve it. Tears streamed down my face. I won't come back in the next life. A twisted benevolence appeared on Dad's face. I advise you to cooperate. You've already signed an organ donation agreement. Even if you're emptied out and die on the operating table, no one will dare say a word. I'll give you Wanwan's replaced heart. Whether you live or die depends on your luck. Be grateful. This is the last fatherly love I can give you. The cold blade cut through my skin. The ribs were forcibly pried open, and the excruciating pain of layer upon layer of flesh being stripped away. I screamed miserably. My limbs were tightly bound to the operating table, unable to move. The pain overwhelmed me, and I passed out. In the chaos, I saw myself from a week ago. In the trash can I saw the blurry, terrifying white smoke, welcoming my first rebirth. Now it should be the second time. I don't know how long passed before I woke up again. I lay on a soft bed, my body filled with unprecedented power. I looked at my reflection in the window. From now on I am Shenwan, the most favored daughter of the Shen family. Dear Mom and Dad, I've finished merging, it's time to repay you. Shenwan woke up. She looked blankly at her hands covered with thin calluses from years of hard work. Then she suddenly lifted the blanket, looking at the thin and withered body with thick bandages wrapped around her chest. Finally, her gaze was fixed on my face, originally hers, beautiful and healthy. Her expression instantly turned to horror. Ah! She rolled off the bed and pounced on me. You monster! Give me back my body. After taking just a couple of steps, she curled up on the ground in pain, a large patch of blood seeping from the wound on her chest. I looked at her with a smile. Sister, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Shut up, who's your sister? Shenwan struggled, still trying to crawl over. The door to the ward was pushed open violently. Dad didn't even look at Shenwan on the ground. He rushed straight to my bedside, anxiously checking my body. Wanwan, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere? Shenwan on the ground saw a savior and cried out. Dad, I'm Wanwan. She's a monster, she stole my body. I put on a look of horror and innocence. Dad's sister. Is there something wrong with her after the surgery? Is she mentally unstable? Dad turned his head, looked at Shenwan on the ground, disheveled and insane, and the worry in his eyes instantly turned into cold disgust. Shut up. He stood in front of me, pointing at Shenwan and shouting, Look at the ghastly state you're in. And you dare to impersonate Wanwan. Shenwan completely broke down. She desperately pounced on me again. Give me back my body. A fierce glint flashed in Dad's eyes, and he kicked out with his leg. Shenwan's thin body was kicked away violently, crashing into the wall and falling to the ground again. The wound was completely torn open, and blood instantly stained her hospital gown red. She lay on the ground, looking at Dad in disbelief, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Dad withdrew his foot, cursing with a look of disgust. You suicidal bitch, if you dare to get one step closer to Wanwan again, I'll let you die here. He turned around and gently stroked my hair. Don't be afraid, Wanwan, Dad's here. I looked at his hand comforting me, and a few bluish scales flashed across the back of his hand. How lovely. Mom arrived in a hurry. She ignored Shenwan on the ground, walked quickly to my bedside, and stood on my left and right with Dad guarding me. Wanwan, my darling, how are you feeling? I smiled weakly. Mom, I'm fine. It's just... Sister seems to be not doing so well. Shenwan on the ground, oh no, she should be called Shen Miao now. She looked at our family of 3 in a happy scene, her eyes filled with unwillingness and resentment. On the day of discharge, I walked ahead, holding Dad and Mom's arms. Shenwan was dragged behind like a dead dog by two bodyguards, her mouth stuffed with cloth, only able to make struggling sounds of woof woof. Back at the Shen family villa, I familiarly walked towards the largest pink princess room on the second floor. Shenwan was dragged by the servants towards the dark and damp servants' quarters. When passing through the living room, she suddenly broke free from her restraints. She spat out the cloth in her mouth, crying out to Mom and Dad with a heart-wrenching scream. Dad, Mom! I'm Wanwan. Our family went on vacation to the beach, and I got stung by a jellyfish. Dad, you carried me and ran for several blocks to find a hospital. Mom made a song for me to make me happy. She naturally hummed a ballad that only the three of them knew. The gentleness and patience on Dad's face gradually disappeared, and his brows furrowed. Mom also looked at me hesitantly, with a hint of inquiry in her eyes. I sneered inwardly, but tears flowed down my face at the right moment. I broke free from Dad's hand, staggered back a step, my face full of grief. Sister is really crazy. These things I told her as stories. She's too bored being locked up at home, always pestering me to tell her about my childhood. I thought she was just envious of me, but I didn't expect she would want to replace me. I lowered my head, my voice choked, and my body trembled slightly. If Mom and Dad also suspect me, if Sister really can't tolerate me, then I'll leave. After all, she's the Shen family's biological daughter. Shut up. Dad immediately pulled me back, holding me tightly in his arms. He turned his head and glared fiercely at the person on the ground, scolding angrily. You vicious madwoman. You eavesdropped on Wanwan's life and dare to pretend to be something you're not. Someone, gag her mouth and lock her up. No, Shenwan completely broke down. She pointed at me and screamed like crazy. You're lying. Dad, let her speak. Let her also tell about the things from her childhood. She doesn't know anything at all. Mom and Dad's movements paused for a moment. They looked at me again, and in the depths of their eyes, there was undisguisable suspicion. I bit my lip and remained silent. Shenwan revealed a triumphant smile. Speak. Why don't you say anything? You imposter. I raised my head, wiped away my tears, and quietly looked at them. In their increasingly suspicious gazes, I spoke softly. When I was 6 years old, I fell off the swing in the backyard and chipped half of my front tooth. When I was 9, Dad took me to the company for the first time, and I drew pictures in your office all day. I drew pictures of our family being together for 3 lifetimes. When I was 12, I won first place in the city piano competition. Mom, you made me a strawberry cake, but it was burnt. The 3 of us laughed so hard. The suspicion on Mom and Dad's faces instantly vanished. They rushed over and hugged me tightly. Dad was saying, I knew it, I knew my Wanwan was the real one. What soul swapping, it's all nonsense. Mom cried and said, it's Mom's fault. Mom shouldn't have suspected you. Shenwan collapsed on the ground, her face ashen. The bodyguard stepped forward again and dragged her away roughly. In her desperate cries, I heard her use her last strength to roar at me. How could you know these things? Who exactly are you? I turned around, meeting her bloodshot and terrified eyes. Then, I curved my lips into a smile, silently mouthing the words to her. I am Shenwan. Once again, I'm back in this luxurious princess room. Once again, I stand in front of the large dressing mirror. I looked at my delicate and beautiful face in the mirror, and curled my lips in satisfaction. Suddenly, the person in the mirror transformed into a thin, dirty little girl. But this time, she didn't cry or struggle. She was smiling at me. I took the hand of the person in the mirror. Don't worry, none of them will escape. This is just the beginning. A knock came on the door, and my mother, wearing a full black mask, pushed it open and came in. She rushed over and hugged me, sobbing uncontrollably. I gently patted her back, asking in the softest voice, Mom, what's wrong? Your father. He hasn't come home for days. Ever since these things grew on my face, he started to despise me. He doesn't want me anymore. Her voice trembled, and she clutched my arm tightly. Wanwan, you're all Mom has left. I comforted her. How could that be? Dad loves you the most. Let me see, maybe it's not that serious. The body in my arms suddenly stiffened, and she shook her head neurotically, protecting her mask. No. No, you mustn't look, it will scare you. It's okay, Mom, I'm your daughter. No one in the world loves you more than I do. Let me see, I won't despise you. She hesitated for a long time, finally summoning her courage, and trembling, she took it off. I looked at her face, covered in black skin and growing dense black hairs. I caressed it with pity, smiling innocently and cruelly. So ugly, like a wild boar. The sadness on Mom's face instantly froze, turning into shock. She screamed and reached for the mask on the table. I took the mask first and threw it far away. I tilted my head, innocently asking her, "Mom, your face is broken, why don't you cut it off?" She looked at me in bewilderment, unable to understand. I continued, "My sister's kidneys failed, so they were cut off. Your face is broken, isn't it the same?" Mom widened her eyes in terror, retreating again and again, turning to run. I grabbed her from behind, pressed my face against her back, and whispered, "Mom, don't be afraid. You only have me now. Dad might have other children, but you only have me. The better I am, the better you can be, right?" Unsurprisingly, at dinner, Dad asked me to go to the hospital to work tomorrow. I obediently agreed. I picked up a piece of ribs and offered it to Mom's mouth. "Mom, eat more." She was wearing a mask and couldn't eat at all, only awkwardly freezing there. Dad slammed down his chopsticks, his face full of disgust. "I'm done eating." He got up to leave. Mom slid off her chair as if her soul had been taken away. A servant suddenly ran in, looking flustered. "Sir, something bad happened. A large group of reporters is surrounding the outside." Dad's face darkened. "What's going on?" The servant was about to cry. It's Shenwan. She doesn't know how she ran out, and she brought the reporters back. She's crying and shouting at the camera at the door. I don't know what she's trying to do." Dad's face instantly turned livid, and he strode outside. I followed slowly. Flashes of light exploded at the door, almost blinding me. Dozens of reporters had surrounded the Shen family's gate. Shenwan was standing at the very front, in front of all the cameras. She was wearing ill-fitting old clothes, her hair was messy, her thin body was trembling in the wind, and her eyes were red, staring fixedly at me. "They're out." The reporters immediately swarmed forward, their microphones almost poking Dad's face. "Director Shen, may I ask if the reason you brought back your biological daughter was to dig out her kidney and heart to extend the life of your adopted daughter? I heard that Miss Shen Miao has been sleeping in the servant's room since she came home, and doesn't even have decent clothes, is that true? Are the injuries on her body from your abuse?" Dad remained calm, sternly scolding. "Nonsense. How could we, the Shen family, possibly abuse our own daughter? As soon as she came back, she moved into the best room. Even Wan's princess room was given to her. If you don't believe me, you can ask the guests at Shen Miao's birthday banquet. They can all testify." Mom covered her face, making a sobbing sound through her mask. "I'm her biological mother. Seeing her so thin, my heart aches. I personally cook soup for her every day to nourish her, and that's how I managed to nourish her a little." "Meow meow, how could you slander us like this?" I stepped forward at the right time, took Mom's arm, and looked at Shenwan with an innocent face. "Yes, sister, Mom made 5 red soup for you herself, have you forgotten?" Shenwan's expression instantly twisted, and she roared as she lunged at me. "Shut up, you're the one who ruined me. I'm going to tear you apart." The bodyguards quickly blocked her. Her frantic struggling looked more like a crazy person out of control in the eyes of the reporters. A reporter seized the opportunity to throw the question deeper. "Director Shen, Madam Shen, how could you bear to personally dig out your own daughter's organs? I heard it was a live heart dissection. How is this any different from murder? Has your hospital done this kind of thing before?" Mom's body trembled and she said through her tears, "We did cut her kidney and heart, but that's because her kidneys had already failed. Precisely because I'm her mother, I had to do it myself." She spoke from a mother's perspective, and a few words made people feel sympathy and pity for her. "But my heart is perfectly fine," Shenwan screamed. "Why are you digging out my heart?" I watched her with interest. "So that's what this is about. She wants a healthy heart." Dad looked at her with disappointment. "Have you forgotten? You were the one who cried and shouted that you were willing to exchange your heart for Wan, and our whole family was moved for a long time. Now you're actually going back on your word and dare to bring reporters to besiege your own home. I said that the shares would be given to you, but only after you are able to stand on your own. Meow meow, you're too impatient. I never agreed. Shenwan desperately defended. Give me back my heart. Dad looked at her like a jumping clown, and had someone bring out the voluntary organ donation agreement that I had signed. See clearly for yourself in black and white. Is this your signature? The surroundings were instantly silent. The reporters looked at each other, unable to ask another word. Dad coldly swept the crowd. Today's events, if anyone dares to write a single word out of line, I guarantee they won't be able to survive in this industry. The reporters scattered like birds and beasts, carrying their equipment. Shenwan was dragged in roughly by the bodyguards, and the door slammed shut. A loud slap landed heavily on Shenwan's face. Her already weak body was directly knocked to the ground, her face swollen high, and blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. Dad was panting heavily, his eyes fierce, and he raised his hand as if he wanted to hit her again. Suddenly, his movements froze, and he abruptly began to scratch his arm. It hurt so much, so itchy. He fearfully rolled up his sleeves, only to see that dense, blue scales had grown on that arm at some point. What is this? The rage and fear in his eyes intertwined, and he turned to see Shenwan struggling on the ground, his anger finding an outlet, and he kicked her. I was sitting on the sofa, eating strawberry cake in small bites with a silver spoon. Looking at Shenwan curled up on the ground, I tilted my head. Sister, don't make mommy and daddy angry. Naughty children won't get mommy and daddy's love. Shenwan coughed up blood, glaring at me with venomous eyes. Shen meow. You will not die a good death. Before she finished speaking, she suddenly clutched her chest, her face pale. Mommy, daddy. My heart condition is acting up. Save me, save me. Mommy glanced at her coldly, and had someone drag her back to her room. A new maid whispered a reminder. Madam, if we don't send her to the hospital, she might die. Mommy's voice came from behind the mask, cold and harsh. That ungrateful wretch deserves to die. The living room finally fell silent. Daddy was still looking at his scaly arm, roaring in despair. What the hell is going on? No hospital can figure it out. I put down my cake, wiped my mouth, and spoke weakly. Daddy, this might not be a disease. He and Mommy looked at me at the same time. I wrung my fingers, pretending to be scared. I just think these strange things at home seem to have only started after sister came back. Daddy's eyes suddenly lit up, and he slapped his thigh. That's right, it's her. Shen Miao is a jinx. She was born unlucky and attracts unclean things. We shouldn't have brought her back. The next day, I came home from work at the hospital. As soon as I entered the door, I saw more than a dozen oddly dressed people standing in the living room. The Taoist priest in the lead was ethereal and held a compass in his hand, circling around Shenwan. It's her, the source of the strange things in the house. Mommy and Daddy's faces instantly turned white. The way they looked at Shenwan was like looking at a pile of walking garbage. Several young Taoist priests rushed forward and tied Shenwan tightly to a Grand Master chair with ropes soaked in black dog blood. Shenwan struggled desperately, uttering muffled cries. She glared at me with a Zhengning face. I shrank into Mommy's arms in fear, trembling. Mommy hugged me and patted my back, her gaze towards Shenwan growing colder. Wanwan, don't be afraid, Mommy and Daddy are here. The leading Taoist priest took out a small torch. Madam Shen, use this Samadhi True Fire Talisman to burn the palms of her hands and the soles of her feet. Mommy walked towards Shenwan step by step. Shenwan widened her eyes in horror. Mommy, no. I am really your most beloved Wanwan. Mommy's eyes were filled with hatred, and she pressed the burning torch hard on Shenwan's forehead. The smell of burning flesh filled the living room. Shenwan let out an inhuman scream and fainted, only to be woken up by a basin of cold water. But when she woke up, she was still the same. The Taoist priest frowned and shook his head. The demonic resentment is too strong. It has already merged with this body, and ordinary methods cannot force it out. Daddy was anxious, pointing to the scales on his arm. What should we do then? Taoist priest, you must save me. The Taoist priest pondered for a moment, then took out a long, thick iron nail from his bag of ritual implements. There is only one way left. Use this soul-suppressing nail to pierce her skull, so that her soul will be scattered and she will never be able to reincarnate. He handed the nail to Daddy. This matter must be done by the closest relative in order to completely sever the karmic bond. Daddy took the nail, his eyes turning fierce. He looked at the scales on his arm, then at the dying Shenwan, without the slightest hesitation. Shenwan seemed to have a premonition of something and begged with all her strength. "No, Daddy, please. Please don't." Daddy raised the iron nail and hammer in his hand. "You evil thing, you ruined my whole family, go to hell." Shenwan fell silent, and her life left her. I slowly walked to the dead Shenwan. Her eyes were wide open, with a bloody hole in her forehead, not at peace in death. I reached out and gently stroked her cold face. I picked up her hand, which had rope marks and was bleeding, and sighed. "Wanwan, Mommy and Daddy said, you have to be good to be loved. Why did you make Mommy and Daddy angry? Why struggle? Look how ugly it is now. Shen Miao." A hoarse voice suddenly came from behind. I turned around, it was the leading Taoist priest. He looked at me with a mysterious and unpredictable gaze. "Everything has cause and effect, the cause you plant today, one day." I tilted my head and gave him a sweet smile. "Taoist priest, take a closer look, who am I?" The Taoist priest stared at my face, his expression changing from exploration to confusion to horror. The color drained from his face instantly, as if he had seen the most terrifying thing in the world. The compass in his hand clanged to the ground and rolled and crawled towards the door. I tilted my head. "Why are you running? I haven't given you an introduction yet." 2 months passed. Mommy and Daddy's condition did not improve, but worsened. More cyan black scales grew on Daddy's body, densely packed, spreading from his arm to his neck. Mommy's entire upper body was black. The fishy smell could not be washed away no matter what. The two no longer dared to go out, and locked themselves at home all day long. Daddy roared into the phone. "Useless, a bunch of useless people. What's the use of me supporting you? You can't even cure this little problem." The person on the other end of the phone tremblingly suggested, "Director, how about trying to remove it by external force?" Daddy hung up the phone, his face livid. He slammed a fist on the table, took out anesthetic and a pair of surgical pliers from the medical kit, and gave himself an injection in the arm. I silently walked over and handed him the shiny surgical pliers. He hesitated for a moment, but finally took it. The pliers clamped onto a scale, and he yanked hard. Daddy screamed, and his whole body jumped up from the sofa. The scale, along with flesh and blood, was torn off, leaving a bloody wound. "Why does it hurt so much?" He was covered in cold sweat, his face twisted. I covered my mouth, pretending to be scared. "Daddy, don't scare me. Is it because sister is still blaming us? So she deliberately made the anesthetic useless for you?" Dadajang. Daddy's eyes turned red instantly. He was like a completely enraged beast. He threw away the anesthetic, raised the pliers, and plucked the scales off his arm, one piece after another, fiercely. In the living room, only his suppressed and painful roars, and the muffled sound of flesh being torn apart remained. The bloody smell was so strong that it was choking. I turned my head and looked at Mommy, who was trembling in the corner. I took a fruit knife from the kitchen and handed it to her. "Mommy, would you like to try it too?" Mommy looked at me in horror. I tilted my head, my voice soft. "Think about Daddy and how beautiful you used to be. Just like the time when you helped sister with the torch." Mommy trembled, but finally took the knife from my hand. I watched them, one using pliers, the other using a knife, frantically mutilating themselves, tearing off the scales on their bodies. Blood flowed all over the floor. Screams of agony rose and fell. "How lovely," I whispered in my heart. "Shen Miao, do you see this? They are getting their retribution. I am a fox demon who failed to survive my tribulation, my soul about to dissipate." The first time I saw Shen Miao, she was curled up next to a garbage dump 3 kilometers away from the Shen family home, fighting with stray dogs for food. She was bitten until she was a bloody mess, delirious but still muttering, "Go home." She treated me like a god, crying and saying she was willing to offer everything, only asking to be with her family forever. And so, my remnant soul resided in her broken body. This body won't last long. Fortunately, her good parents gave her an excellent plan. As long as the heart transplant is successful, my soul and hers can completely merge with Shenwan, ushering in a new life. As for her biological parents, I will naturally give them a good plan as well. The clock ticked away minute by minute. Mom and Dad were already sprawled in a pool of blood. I submitted all the evidence I had collected during this time. Shen, the hospital director, and his wife's crimes of stealing and trading organs using their positions were confirmed. They first went to the hospital, then to prison, and later to the laboratory. Since they liked cutting people so much, let them enjoy the taste of being cut. Shin Miao and I were in the same body. Under my guidance, she decided to live for herself, opening a breakfast shop in the old city. 3 years later, I recovered extremely well, separated from her body, and became a regular at her shop.